Okay, guys, welcome to this first Cricket Strength Hot Seat. We are today speaking to Ryan Edmonds, who's been on the one-to-one plan for the last 13 months, and we are going to get stuck in and find out everything about, how he sort of came to being in the plan and what it's done for him, and hopefully it will resonate for you and just give you an insight into see the pathway to getting out of pain. Okay, so Ryan, welcome, buddy.
Hi, mate. You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you? Because obviously you've had a new addition lately. And so how's the
Yeah.
sleep?
Yeah, so sleepless nights, different issues to what I initially came to you with. So I don't think you'll be able to resolve the sleepless nights, but yeah, I wouldn't change it for the world. It's absolutely smashing, mate. Yeah.
Brilliant. I was going to say, yeah, there's not much we can do for the baby crying, buddy, but we'll try anyway. Anyway, so mate, let's get stuck in because your story is a really interesting story because you're one of the sort of the discovery calls that sticks out to me the most of almost the pain you were in, just not sort of physically, but mentally as well. The how stuck you seemed, and so I think this is going to be really interesting for people to hear. So first off, buddy, just tell us about the sort of the issues you were encountering with your body and everything before you came to us.
So about it was at the end of the 2017 season. It's the penultimate game. I suffered with a disc protrusion. I was running between the wickets, turned and just popped back. Didn't know what quite happened. Ended up in hospital for 5 days. Couldn't move, and that has hampered me forever since, really. So I torn sort of the muscles in my back, and yeah, had a pretty severe disc protrusion. Was on a load of medication and stuff to get out of hospital. Once out of hospital, it would progressively get a little bit better, but then it would reoccur again, just even like bending over, just tying your shoelaces, anything like that. So there's kind of no route out of the issues that I was suffering, really. It was like limiting my everyday activity and stuff like that, and like even just going to work and bits and pieces like that. So yeah, it was pretty horrendous. Both my parents suffered with bad backs, and until you have a bad back yourself, I don't think you appreciate how debilitating it can be. And ultimately, it was stopping me from doing the things that I loved, playing cricket, but also just stopping me from being able to do my everyday things, being able to get to work and stuff like that.
Wow. So how long was it until you sort of got back into playing?
So trying to think now. I didn't go straight into the following season. I think it was about midway, so it probably took about 9 months. I went back into playing cricket, and I wasn't bowling. I didn't bowl probably for the 2 seasons after that, just for fear of doing more damage, really. That because I didn't know how to not hurt it any further, really.
So what did actually we'll move on to the next question, then we'll get into sort of the advice they gave you. So yeah, how would you try to sort of deal with the issues? It's a big issue. A lot of people get bad backs. Not many as bad as actually being in hospital for a few days with the torn muscles and everything. So talk about that period, like between coming out of hospital to getting back to bowling, but almost before you spoke to us. What had you been doing? Who had you been seeing, and those sorts of things?
So it was just a case of going through initially the standard physiotherapy that they prescribe through the NHS, which the NHS is an absolute brilliant thing that we have here, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But it doesn't give you the detail which is required, which I ultimately found I required. But it was a case of going to the physio. They don't touch you. They don't kind of look at your movement patterns or anything. They just kind of give you some basic movements and stretches for you to run through. And then up to you to kind of maintain that. So yeah, I would see them. Sorry?
They'll just give you like a PDF handout off your phone.
Yeah, pretty much. And there's no demonstration either to go alongside to even show you how to do the stretches, to even know that you're doing them right. Sometimes you get into a position and be like, you'd feel a bit of pain. You're not sure whether that was correct, that you should feel the discomfort, or whether you shouldn't. So yeah, it was a little bit of a confusing period. I reached out to a osteopath off my own back to see if they could help. And again, it would loosen up for about 4 to 6 weeks, but after that sort of 6 weeks, I'd feel a real comeback with a vengeance. And that would, I kind of realized that I couldn't carry on in that cycle really. To just keep returning to an osteopath every 6 weeks wasn't going to be sustainable really.
So you would literally just in that pain cycle where you go to them, you feel a bit better, 4 to 6 weeks later, pain's back, and you're like, Jesus, what now?
Yeah, exactly that. And still taking the medication all at the same time as well. So I was on 3 different drugs, I think, some baclofen, naproxen, and everything like that to go alongside. So it was, there was all that to go kind of take into it, and it still wasn't resolving the issue that I had. I think what I came to the realization was that this is kind of tiding me over. It's kind of dulling the issue, but isn't actually resolving the problem ultimately.
Yeah. So just like a Band-Aid over it.
Yeah, exactly that.
So how did all this fit in with your game as well? Obviously, because you love cricket, you want to be playing cricket again, but you're going through this and you're never really feeling, I guess, that you're right. So how were you able to bowl? What were you sort of able to do with your cricket?
Yeah, so for those first couple of seasons back, I wasn't bowling. I was batting, and after batting that day, I'd be in absolute pieces. Even if I didn't bat for very long, if I'd fielded for say 40 overs, I'd still be in pieces just through running around in the field. I'd be in bits on the Sunday and the Monday as well. So that was again further affecting my work. And it was getting to a point where I was not considering giving up, but considering, did I need to change the standard that I was playing at? Not that I play at a particularly high standard, but in order to be able to try and get the enjoyment back, because I wasn't enjoying my cricket as much because it was causing me to be in so much pain. So it's making me have those kind of thoughts, which isn't a great place to be when it's the thing that you look forward to in your summer weekends.
Yeah, 100%. So what made you contact us then, buddy?
So I'd followed Cricket Strength for a long time, because prior to having the back injury, I'd always fancied being able to bowl a bit quicker than I could. I was pretty military medium at best, pitching the ball up there, swinging it back through. So I'd always fancied trying to get a bit quicker, but my batting probably came on a lot more than my bowling. So I tended to not get, I hadn't got in contact with Cricket Strength, but when I then started to have the back issues, I think after those couple of seasons where I was kind of tearing my hair out, not making any further progress, I saw you put something out on Instagram, just asking people to get in touch about how you could help in not just ways about getting quicker, but actually like from a physical point of view, like being more bulletproof. I think was the phrase that you used, was being bulletproof. So I reached out to you because I was like, well, here's a guy who's keen to help. I want to get involved in that. I'd seen your track record, I'd seen who you had worked with. And that was for me that I was sold when we had that first conversation. You said that you'd worked with guys at Worcester who had exactly the same issues. When I described my challenges, you're like, you could totally understand where I was coming from and where I want to get back to. I knew that I was a half decent player at the stand that I play at, but I wasn't able to get there at that time, and you were able to understand where I wanted to get to and help, and we kind of worked on that journey really. Yeah.
Was there any sort of skepticism? You must have thought, because you've been doing so much and tried so much over a period of, so from 2017 and we got on a call end of 2021, so 4 years, was there part of you that thought, well, actually, he's saying the right things, but actually, can it work for me? Am I different? Is it actually going to help or not?
I think that was part of the conversation that we had, that I understood that this was going to be different, that it was going to be about movement patterns, and you weren't going to just do exactly what the physios had done to me before, of just give me a load of stretches and then give me a call in 6 months' time to see that I was still in the same place. You were actually going to monitor how I was getting on. You could see like the workouts. You would be keeping an eye on, particularly the assessment that you would do, the pain that I was getting when I was doing like the straight leg raises and stuff like that. So those things were really key to me, because I not only could you see that I was improving, but I knew that I would be improving because we had some almost like some data points that I could go on. I work in data as a day-to-day job, and that really helps me to know that I'm making progress. Some people have to see it, whereas for me, if I can see that a number's going in the right direction, that really helps. And yeah, that was kind of what sold me to working with you, because I knew that based on everything that you'd done before, that I was going to be in pretty safe hands, and it wasn't going to be the same as what I'd done before. And I'm pretty open-minded, I guess.
Yeah. And did you think as well, because just touched on something you said earlier, you were given a PDF and sort of off you go. There's no sort of recourse or anyone to actually talk to. Was that a big thing, knowing hopefully I got across the right way that I was there for you? If you had a question, I was there, because there's nothing worse. I've got a sinus issue at the moment and I'm trying to get it right. And I'm getting so frustrated because there's no one that I can go and talk to easily. Was that a big part as well?
Oh, massive, really massive. So like, as soon as you'd send for, I remember having that conversation that you said that you'd send for a workout, and if I got stuck on an exercise or whatever, you would just say, WhatsApp me, and you would be back with me in 5 minutes and tell me like, this is what you should be feeling, this is what you should do. And that communication is really important in all of this, particularly when someone, like for me, I'm not a massive gym goer maybe, so I needed the assistance to try and make sure that I was going in the right direction, because if you were feeling a little bit of discomfort or pain, you need to know whether that was right or not. Where I had those PDFs before, I didn't know whether that was correct, whereas I could say, Ross, help, I'm getting a little bit of discomfort doing deadlifts or something like that. You would say, right, lift the bar up, put it up on blocks, so you're doing the top range of the motion. That stuff was absolutely brilliant for me.
Yeah, awesome. So what were your initial thoughts about you join up? Hey, obviously you got to go on the movement screen and everything like that. Were you like a bit like bombarded with it, or were you like, brilliant, I can see the pathway where this is going to help now?
Yeah, definitely the latter. Definitely thought it was brilliant that I could see that there was a journey. That was what we discussed about. I think when we started in November, you had said that this is about trying to get me ready for the season. We were pretty honest up front that this is not going to be about trying to get me to bowl 90 mile an hour by the season. This was about trying to get me on the park. And that was so important to me. There was not trying to run before we could walk. Actually, I needed to be able to walk first. And that certainly was a challenge at some times. So yeah, that trying to take those smaller steps, we talked about kind of 6-week reviews and looking at different blocks, so that we knew that we were trying to get me out of pain initially, and then trying to go through a little bit of a strength phase while supporting my back. So those kind of cycles were really, really helpful to me to know that we'd be heading in the right direction.
Brilliant. So we'll talk about the process, mate. One of the things, like you say, we talked about was, for me, getting you to the season, getting you out of pain. We didn't really touch on performance too much, almost because I sort of knew where we were going to get you, but I didn't. I thought it would be too much to tell you straight away, you're going to be pain-free by the season, and you're going to be bowling. Because at the start, it was just about getting pain-free. We weren't even talking about bowling.
No.
But how did it hit you? How quickly it all happened? And yeah, we'll talk about that first, and then I've got another little question on top of that.
So I guess like the initial phase about trying to get me out of pain was that maybe felt a little bit slower, because it was trying to figure out what was the driver behind causing me to be in pain. So I remember we sort of were in lots of WhatsApp conversations initially, trying to work out, right, this is what's caused me to be in pain, particularly, and we were repeating doing the assessments quite frequently to try and see, had the exercise that you'd given me improved the assessment results. So that probably took a little bit longer, that initial phase. But once we got through that, honestly, the speed at which things improved thereafter was absolutely phenomenal. So I think I was out of pain we started in November. I think I was out of pain by March, because then we started more heavily netting by that point. And then I remember coming home after a net session, suddenly realizing I can get out of the car and I'm not like crawling out of the car and stuff like that. Like I was absolutely amazed at how quick that process was. And I remember waking up the next day expecting to be in all sorts of pain, and it just wasn't there. It blew my mind really. And then got into the season, and again, that it just the benefits were absolutely mind-blowing really.
And the interesting thing was with, always say with injuries, particularly with backs, is it's never a straight line. It's never right. We're going to start here in November, say, and we're going to get you to April, and it's just going to be great all the way. It's never going to be like that. I remember you went on a holiday where you were walking and you had a little attack, and it's almost when those little points come in, then it's right. What were you doing? Sort of a good chat about it, us figuring out, like you say, those drivers, and then understanding, right, if we do this again, because you're going to go on holiday, we're going to have a normal life, we just need to understand what we need to do around it to mitigate it. And those little, I call them setbacks, sometimes it's 3 steps forward, 1 back, and those things really help the whole process to understanding. And the big thing for me with you was how closely you followed everything. Some people get frustrated at points and they start going back to their old training, but when you just follow the process like you have, you get the results. So how did that feel? Because you were, again, when you had these little setbacks, your head didn't go down. We just got on a call, we had a chat, and we sort of planned, right, this is what we do now.
Yeah, the setbacks are interesting because I think I didn't really suffer a setback until I think it was January when I went on that holiday and had a flare up, and that was pretty horrendous. But because of the progress that I'd made in such a short space in time, I knew that wasn't kind of the end of the line. That was just another one of those sort of hiccups, and if I implemented what we had done before, would soon be out of the woods with that. So yeah, for me, it wasn't a case of like head down, this is a waste of time, waste of money or anything like that. It was a case of right, we'll implement what happened before. And yeah, like you've just written there, trust the process. It was about just having that open conversation as well with you, making sure that I was being totally honest with how I was feeling, not trying to tough it out. I think that was another thing that came across, is me not trying to say, oh yeah, I'm feeling all right, and actually I'm in bits. Actually saying, no, I've got a little bit of a twinge, and that helps you to be able to best support me.
Yeah, 100%. Because if I don't know, then I can't help. If I've only got bits of information, it makes it a lot harder. But yeah, you were totally like, right, we've been for a walk, I probably didn't do this, I did this, blah, blah, and then this, where's your body at the moment? It's here and here, and then we could put a plan together. So mate, absolutely, it was fantastic. So let's get to getting back to cricket then. This sort of phase were probably what surprised you quite a bit. So, you started netting in March, and then from sort of March, I guess you were probably still apprehensive about thinking of the season coming, but just talk to us about that sort of pre-season and then getting back to playing it, and just how you felt about that. And the first few games, you must have been thinking, right, I'm back here. So yeah, just talk me through that, buddy.
Yeah, so first game of the season, we actually had a National Village Cup game that we ended up getting washed out for our pre-season game. So went straight into a competitive game, and I was pretty nervous because I'd had a bit of a bowl in nets, and the skipper had come up to me and said, "They're coming out nicely. Fancy you opening the bowling for us this season?" Left arm, and so sort of a little bit different. I was like, Jesus, like I've gone from like barely bowling for the last however many seasons to now being told that I'm going to open up. And yeah, played a cup game against Cambridge side, and honestly, absolutely, like, it flew out of my hand. Like, I'm not saying that I was bowling anything like Mark Wood or anything like that, but the keeper who I've played cricket with for the last 10 seasons said, I can't stand up to you. Like, he would usually just stand up to me to keep batsmen in their crease. And no, he's like, you've pushed me back. I can't stand up. Probably bowled the first bumper that I've bowled for about 10 seasons as well. And it came through all right. And it just picked up my confidence. And I was like a kid playing my first game again. Honestly, I was like, this is why I play the game. And I just literally so happy, really. And then after the game, I felt like I could have gone and played another game straight after. And on the Sunday, like there was no pain. I could have just quite easily gone again.
Brilliant. And so, but after that first game, what did you do? Because there would have been some apprehension, I'm sure. Did you make sure you covered off your soft tissue and everything before, just make like to guarantee, not guarantee, but so the next day you knew you'd have done everything in your power to help, being able to walk the next day?
Yeah, so for me, the key with playing is doing the pre-game stuff. So the mediball work is so important. So that video that you released is for me, that's my go-to. Whilst everyone else is going to have a kickabout with a football, I'm somewhere else doing that. I've got a couple of people who might follow me sometimes now and then, find out what I'm doing, and they get involved, which is quite nice. But yeah, and then the soft tissue, I think that was the thing when I had that flare up back in the January. When I had that flare up, because I was on holiday, didn't take stuff with me to do soft tissue work, and that's the thing that keeps me in check, like day in, day out. So as long as I'm doing that 2 to 3 times a week, that keeps my back in check, really, and that's so important. So yeah, that night after that first game, I was like, right, I'm getting this done because I don't want this to slip again. So yeah, it's not the key for me is that I will always have this disc protrusion. I've recently had another MRI, and they've said that I've still got a pretty severe disc protrusion, but they're really happy that I'm clinically feeling fine. So this is telling me that the bits and pieces that you've given me, the soft tissue, is keeping me moving, keeping me feeling sane, really.
Yeah, and one of the things that we spoke about was every time there was a twinge or just a feeling, it's always a reminder. And the thing with discs, you get 2 basic back injuries, a stress fracture or a disc injury. So one is going into extension, the stress fracture, and the disc protrusions are when you go into flexion, bend forwards. And funny enough, the stresses, although a bigger injury, are slightly easier long-term to rehab, because when you get things right, hopefully they're not going to come near again. But when you have a disc injury, is in a protrusion, that day-to-day life, we're in flexion. We're sat down a lot, we bend down a lot, and we're always putting that disc at risk. So that's always going to be there. So we know we need to do the right things, because if we don't, there could be a chance it comes back. We just get something, that little feeling, because I know a couple of times you had it, and you said you just got a feeling, and it's like, so it's a reminder. This is an all the time thing. We look after the body all the time. So let's just talk about the season then. So you started off, how did the whole season plan out for you?
Yeah, pretty good. So bowled pretty much throughout the whole of the season, opening the bowling. They came out real nice. It's probably it's the first time in about 5 years that I'd be able to bowl throughout the course of the season. And it was just the thing that for me that was the key to last year, was just being able to wake up the next day and feeling like I could go again, that I didn't feel like I was broken. It was really important to me to be able to feel like I wasn't sort of limiting my anything outside of cricket because of cricket. It felt like everything, when I was playing cricket before, that everything else kind of suffered. So my Sunday was written off because of what had happened the day before. But now I can make any plans that I like on a Sunday, and I know that I'm absolutely fine to go and do whatever I want to do, whether it be playing another game of cricket or go and climb a mountain or something like that. I felt like I'd be fit enough and well enough to be able to do that.
Fantastic. So what's life like now, but sort of day to day? Obviously we're deep into the winter now, preparing for another season, but how is life around the injury and cricket changed for you? We know life's changed massively in terms of the little one, but day to day, how's it all changed?
I mean, again, the work that you've helped do with me to improve my back is probably helped with the little one, actually, because of you do so much ridiculous bending up and down, picking up babies and changing them and stuff like that. So if I hadn't got in touch with you, I would hate to know what sort of place I'd be in right now, because when you're in pain, your patience goes and everything like that. So it's not just on a physical level that this has helped my life. It's definitely on that sort of that mental side, really improved how I feel, because I feel like I can't now be held back by my back, and I think that was always in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
So it's been a massive thing for me. It's just improved my life all around, because I don't feel like I can be held back from anything.
Amazing, mate. That is amazing. Oh, improved life all around. Cool. Right. Moving on to the last question now. Last question, buddy. If we were to go back to last November, the day before you got on a call, and I was to offer you a lot of money not to go on the call, knowing everything which has happened since, how much money would I have to offer you not to get on the call and have all this happen to you?
I mean, that's a pretty horrendous question, but there's genuinely no amount of money that you could have given me that I would take to not take that call, because of the way that it's made me feel, and the benefits it's given me. That you can't put a price on your own mental health and your own physical health. There's no way that you could I couldn't give that up.
Brilliant, mate. You know, unbelievable. The transformation has been amazing. I wish we'd sort of maybe recorded that first call so we could see the demeanor and everything and how you were from then to now. It's just been amazing, mate. And for such a good guy as well, like you, to have this now is fantastic. So, mate, awesome. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to end the recording and we'll just have a Q&A.